for a lot of people, they don't even realize it if they're not doing a regular movement practice, because yes, it's called hypermobility, and people who are hypermobile tend to be very flexible. But if you're not moving around a lot, if you were never like a gymnast or a dancer, you've never done yoga, any of these things that demand a lot of flexibility, then you may not even be aware that you have this tendency towards flexibility or that you are hypermobile.
That was the Hypermobile Yogis. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Seeker in Sage podcast. I am still Danny. I'm still hosting. We're still here. We're still doing the thing. Today is episode 143. I've got Celeste and Adell, two dear friends, and I call a lot of people on the show dear friends, but they are truly, truly, truly dear friends. I have become really close with both of them. Adell and I met a couple of years ago on accident. A friend of ours introduced us, and she ended up staying at my house for about a week, and then she introduced me to her friend Celeste. And when I was out in London, I took her class, and I'm obviously doing the business of yoga with Celeste currently. Anyway, they have created a really cool platform in a community called Hypermobile Yogis. And I had them on the show. We talked about it. It was over a year ago when they were first starting this, and it was really just taking off. And they have grown it into something so beautiful and so big. And it's really just a great resource, a great platform for those that do have hypermobility, aka myself. Lots of education in there, lots of getting to know your body, and lots of finding deep inquiry within this episode. Two amazing human beings. If you don't know them, please get to know them. They're phenomenal. Before we get into the show, I wanted to remind everybody that the show is really not possible without your love and or your support. So head over to the support the show page, dannypompoon.com/support. And for less than a cup of coffee a week, you can help the show sustain itself. There's a lot that goes into it behind the scenes. There's editing, there's creative work, there's typing everything up, there's putting it on the website. There's so much stuff that goes into the show. So the more that we can sustain the show, the better it actually is for everyone. We can continue these conversations and sharing these lovely episodes with our friends. If you can't support financially, you can always head over to the iTunes store and just leave us a really real, raw review of however you felt about the show. And of course, please share this episode with your friends, because that is also a big help. Without further ado, here goes episode 143 with Adell and Celeste, the Hypermobile Yogis. Hi, I have both of you at the same time. This is so much fun. I mean, we were talking just before we hit the record, but I'm really excited that I get to talk to both of you at the same time. And two, I have to make sure that I keep myself on task. Otherwise, this podcast is just going to be me being like, I love you, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. We love you that much as well, Danny.
This is so great. We need to do this more often. So I haven't had you two on the show in quite a while. And when I first had you two on the show, it was like the birth of Hypermobile Yogis. And now there's a whole, y'all have, really taken it and ran with it. So I feel like the last time we talked was maybe like 6 or 9 months ago on the show, specifically about Hypermobile Yogis, right?
I feel like it was longer ago. I feel like my leg was still in a cast.
It was.
So that was like over a year ago.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so we have a lot of catching up to do. What have you two been up to now?
Things have really taken off for us. I mean, we didn't realize how excited people are about finding a community where they felt understood as what we call our bendy family. But things have really blown up for us. We have over 4,000 or 5,000 people in our private Facebook group.
Wow.
We have a few thousand people that are on our mailing list. We've got, I think over 700 people bought our online course. So basically I've realized that we really are serving a need in the community.
Yeah. And we've also just been working to answer a lot of the requests that we've had from this community by developing and putting together more online courses that will hopefully help our bendy family and even people who aren't bendy, i.e. hypermobile.
Yeah, and actually one of the biggest newses we have, is that...
It's a word now.
You heard it here first.
Basically, a publishing company realized that this demographic needs support, and so they have offered for us to write a book, and so that will be coming out next March, and it's available now for pre-order.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's okay. So okay. There's a few things that I want to unpack. I know the journey started on, the Instagram account was started and people started to, kind of touch in and check in and share stories. What was the wildfire that started to spread from there? Like, what do you think was the biggest part of the movement that people started to connect to this?
Well, I think it was because we gave a name to something that people had perhaps recognized in themselves, but they didn't realize it was a thing. Because I know I can speak from personal experience that, I spent my whole life in this body. I don't know what it's like to be in any other body. And
Right.
I've always been flexible. And I've also always been prone to injury. And I just kind of thought that was normal. But when we started talking about that, the fact that it's called joint hypermobility and it comes with all of these other things, I think that it really just was that light bulb moment for so many people, just like it was for us when we both found out that we had hypermobility, where you start to add everything up. You start to go, oh yeah, that's me. Oh yeah, that's also me. And suddenly you have a name for this thing that you've been dealing with that you maybe didn't even realize you were dealing with it. But once you have a name for something and you realize that it is a condition that's been researched and talked about and everything, then you also have answers to questions that have been unanswered for years, and you have solutions to problems that you've dealt with for years.
Yeah.
The interesting thing is that a lot of times also, me and all the other bendies, and I know this is true for Adell too, is we've actually seeked out professional advice, but for individual complaints, and the professional has never been with it enough or educated enough potentially to realize that they're all related, like the gut issues, the anxiety, the weird joint pain. All of it came under one neat little umbrella of hypermobility, but nobody out there is like, oh, you're hypermobile. That's why you got all this weird shit happening to your body. And I think that was that's a powerful thing that people can suddenly resonate with, and they can be like, oh, got it. Okay, let's go to work on fixing the hypermobility, as opposed to individually trying to tackle all these various symptoms that they're dealing with.
So I think maybe let's actually kind of like pause and kind of rewind for a second for maybe some of the listeners now on the show that didn't hear the episode before. Can you give us, I guess, we'll call it the elevator speech, but what exactly is hypermobility? For those that are just tuning in right now that are like, wait, what? We didn't catch that for first episode. What is hypermobility?
So hypermobility is a genetic spectrum disorder where we have our collagen that's disrupted. And so all of our tissues in our body are too stretchy. And often we refer to these people as double jointed, and they can do weird things with their bodies. But actually, when we start to look more closely at the makeup of the body, there are many more factors that actually need collagen to be structured well. For example, our guts need collagen and our blood vessels need collagen. And if these are too stretchy and they don't have enough input, they aren't functioning correctly. And this is what leads to the gut issues, and as well as the stretchy blood vessels are closely related to the anxiety.
Why is it so important for people to, I know, I never had the language for it and I never understood, the severity of it. And I'm again, a bendy person, in practice. Why do you think it's so important for people to understand that as yogi practitioners in general, I guess?
Well, it's mostly the thing that really got Celeste and me, what started it all was because of our being prone to being flexible and being prone to anxiety and all of these things. hypermobile people do tend to be drawn to the practice of yoga. And then you come to a yoga class, and if it's taught in a way where it's encouraged to stretch passively and sink deeper into postures and yank and pull yourself passively into postures, then it can be harmful really for anybody, but it can be especially harmful for hypermobile people because we lack the proprioception and because our joints are already lacking the stability that they need to hold themselves together. And so that's really where it started for us, both being yoga teachers and yoga practitioners, wanting to help people learn to practice yoga safely, and with a more of an emphasis on strength than flexibility in terms of the physical postures. And it's just kind of gone from there.
Yeah, I just think we were kind of disappointed that so many of our heroes were so badly injured. Like one of my favorite yoga teachers had 3 herniated discs. I was like, whoa. And then still, I mean, not scaling back or not, doing any kind of rehab, but the most aggressive form of practice where they were pushing their bodies into some extreme ranges that are almost unbelievable. Really, they do belong in circus contortionism. It wasn't natural what people are doing to their bodies. And I just felt a little bit like, wow, what if you're a mom and you're working an office job and you're hypermobile and you're forcing your body and then you're injured and then you can't do yoga at all for years, what a shame. So yeah, I think we were almost crusaders. And the phrase that I keep coming back to in my own mission for myself, and I know Adell shares this, is we want to change the culture in yoga. I don't want people to look at someone who's super bendy anymore and go, oh, you've got such a beautiful practice. I want people to go, have you got enough stability behind the joint range that you're actually operating from? I want people to have the ability to look at someone's back bend and go, oh, they have a hinge. That's why they can get their feet to touch their head. They actually aren't doing it with integrity throughout the whole spine.
Right.
That kind of intelligence is really what I want to cultivate in the yoga world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's that invitation for the inquiry in the body versus let's just push something to push something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. First off, really beautifully said, and I mean I couldn't agree on so many of those things. And I kind of feel like for a lot of yogis, it's kind of that it's the journey of when you start in a younger, let's say, framework of your life in yoga. It's almost like you're supposed to attain the big poses and stretch and bend and do all the things. And then you realize later on, actually, that's not what I'm supposed to do. So I'm really excited to hear that we're starting to share that information a lot earlier because, Celeste, we kind of touched on this the other day, but practicing yoga in a traditional sense is great. Practicing physical yoga in a traditional sense doesn't necessarily make that much sense anymore these days with all of the information that we have on the body and the mechanics of the body.
Totally.
I love that.
So everything's just started to come through. And I'm hearing that you had a lot of like requests and a lot of what is some of the most, I guess, what are some of the most frequently asked questions when people come to you about hypermobility?
Oh, probably the number one thing.
Celeste. Oh.
Is, well, how do I know if I am hypermobile? Do you think that? I mean, that was, especially when we first got started. It's not so much a question that we get anymore, but when we first got started, it's, how do I know if I am hypermobile? Because people hear some of these things and they're like, that sounds like it could be me, but I'm not sure.
Well, I think physical ailments always come through from our hypermobile community. People have questions like, the one that I get all the time is, how do I make my knees feel better in yoga without using a cushion? And I'm like, well, first of all, I have no idea what position you're feeling pain. I have no idea without assessing you what's really wrong. So we do get a lot of questions like, can you help me with my shoulder pain? And I'm like, what do you want me to do with that? That's the most complex joint in the body. There are 4 joints related to the shoulder. I have no idea which one you've got problems with. But I think something that I want to say around that, and maybe this is some value for your community, whether or not you're hypermobile, is that the body will always send pain away from the area that it has a problem. And this is if we're talking about physical tissues being involved. Sometimes there's psychosomatic issues being involved. But a statement that I think everyone should write down, if you've got a pen and paper, your phone handy, write this down. The victim isn't the culprit. So when we're looking at the human body, if, for example, someone's dealing with severe neck pain, it's usually not the neck where the problem is. It's usually because perhaps the serratus anterior isn't firing, that's throwing the scapula forward, and then the neck goes into spasm as a result. Or we've got a lack of strength in maybe we've got a stiff left ankle. Actually, the ankle isn't the problem. It's actually the glute med right at the top of the hip that's causing the hip not to be in an optimal position during walking, so the ankle takes the strain and then throws up the symptoms. And I feel like if most people start to understand this, and I'm not just speaking for yoga practitioners, but therapists as well, if we stop having tunnel vision when working with people and going directly to the side of pain, if we can broaden our view a little bit and look at the body as a whole, I think we're going to come from a far more intelligent place in helping people discover what's wrong and discover the solutions.
Let's get it. Okay, so I have neck pain. No, I'm just kidding. So I have neck pain and my hip hurts. And what are we going to do for me? I mean, I couldn't agree more. I think that, a lot of us just tend to think that because the pain is immediate in one place and we want that pain to go away. So we do, whatever we can just to go to that immediate spot versus taking a look at the broader spectrum. It's putting a Band-Aid on versus actually getting to triage and learn what the problem is and learn how to work with that. And that is because that requires work. And that most people don't want to do.
That deep inquiry, which I think you always refer to, that, which is the real yoga in our books.
Well, I think it also comes down to patience because, for us, it's our job to understand the body, it's our job to get really geeky about anatomy and then help other people get geeky about anatomy. But other people, they're working in jobs that have nothing to do with anatomy, nothing to do with yoga. They may not have the time, but we as a society have been kind of conditioned to expect everything to come instantly in a magical pill form. And the beauty of the yoga practice is that you can use it as a way, like you have said, Danny, as this self-inquiry and taking the patience to really listen, to pay attention to what's happening to your body. And, alongside perhaps going to see a professional who can help you pinpoint exactly what's happening. But yeah, I think a big issue with everybody, hypermobile or not, is just that we want all of our problems solved instantly. And that's often not the case, especially when it comes to the body.
Yeah, that inquiry, it's a perfect example of svidhyaya, it's that self-study. We don't do the yoga just to do the yoga, but it's actually to get to know ourselves on a very deep level. There are a lot of teachers that, may not be outwardly saying things like svidhyaya and, here are the koshas and the kleshas and like you don't have to say that stuff out loud in a yoga class to know that you're teaching that stuff in a yoga class. And you're not necessarily just being like, well, here are the philosophy words that I know. But when you invite someone to actually go further into their body, when you ask them to listen to the nuances, I just said this the other day, but when you ask someone to pay that much detail and that much attention to the articulation of the way something is moving, that is yoga philosophy at its finest. That is asking someone to go there, to stay there, to be present, to not be anywhere else, to treat that movement when it's happening with kindness, to treat that movement with compassion, to learn your reactivity. And there goes so many layers of yoga just within the movement of an arm or a wrist or whatever it is. I think that is, I think it's really easy to get caught up on like, well, what are we teaching? What are we not teaching? But specifically, I think what you two are doing is you're teaching not only a deeper level of getting to know the physical body and really helping people, right? You're getting people into more of a compassionate and kind state by being more comfortable in their bodies. And you're also teaching people like some really deep rooted yoga philosophy. You didn't know that, did you?
No.
Yeah. I mean, truly, we forget that, we forget that it's not just, there's so many layers to it. I think, that's a spinoff podcast, right? I have I'll start to veer left here. So the movement happened, and now this is so exciting to just hear that people are really finding this, because it didn't exist before. I can't remember, not that I know of anyway, at least people weren't speaking about it. And then the book came about. Let's get into the book. What's going on there? Was it just like frequently asked questions? Is it a how-to? What's happening in the book? What's all the information, the source in there?
We are so excited about the book.
Yeah, because the thing is, I don't know if any of your listeners have ever done this. I know I'm so guilty of this. I order books on Amazon, and then as soon as they arrive, especially when they're yoga books, I flick through all the pictures and then I put it on my shelf. And we were like, we don't want people to do that. We really want people to read it. So,
and actually understand it, actually be able to go through all of this information, which is quite, it's lots of anatomy and biomechanics, which is often dry and boring. Let's be honest.
Not for anatomy nerds.
Well,
I'm like, yay!
Well, I'm an anatomy nerd, but when I try and read an anatomy book, I do fall asleep. Because I'm quite dyslexic, reading is hard. So we were like, we want to make this the most fun book under the sun. So what we did was we took our stability muscles and we turned them into superheroes. And we took all the things that turn our bodies into pain and we turned them into supervillains. So for example, we've got sedentary seductress, which is one of our supervillains.
Oh my God.
I can't wait for you guys to see the picture of her. She's so awesome.
She is awesome. Yeah.
And we've got Mr. Floppy.
Passive range of misery man. And his
Who came up with these names.
We did.
Oh my God.
His nemesis is Arum, which stands for active range of motion. Arum the Protector is one of our superheroes.
Yeah, we wanted to also make it inclusive to lots of different types of people. So, for example, transverse abdominis is one of our stability muscles, but we called her Trans Queen Abdominis, and she's a transgender badass that has big boobs and a beard, and she basically keeps everyone cinched in and makes sure we breathe properly. And yeah, she's a total badass as well.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool. It's inclusive.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we've got all the types of people, all the types of things going on, and we're very proud of the book because we really wanted it to be a place where if you find learning hard, you're going to enjoy reading it. If you're someone who's into anatomy, you're going to geek out with us. If you're someone who's like, maybe a little bit awkward and you kind of like the weird things in life, this is going to be a place for you to feel at home.
Yeah.
I did book club for the podcast for such a long time, and then I paused it. And I said I was going to pick it up next year again. I was like, we'll do it again next year. I just don't have time to read all these books right now. But maybe that'll be our first kickoff book for the podcast. Nice. Is the Hypermobile book. That'd be great.
It's called Too Flexible to Feel Good.
Mm-hmm.
So when's it coming out again? In March?
The 16th of March, I think.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Cool. Is it going to be available everywhere?
Yes, it is available now everywhere for pre-order.
Yeah, and the good thing about pre-ordering the book is that Amazon will run sales between now and the launch date. And so if you order it now, when it comes, it'll actually get delivered to you at the cheapest sale price that will be run. So it's really, really worth doing the pre-order.
Yeah, I pre-ordered a copy just because I was like, I'm going to pre-order my own book. And I was excited that because I had looked and originally it was on at like £40, but then when I went to pre-order, it was down to £20.
Wow.
So I was like, cool, I saved money on my own book.
Wait, the book lost weight? I don't get it. That was really bad, huh? Yeah. You're welcome, everybody. You're welcome. Yeah. Hey y'all, I'm here to tell you about another product that I am absolutely loving these days. I've been using this natural herb remedy called Ashwagandha. I know it's kind of fun today, but it helps with stress, anxiety, worry, pressure, because there's none happening in the world. Anyway, I heard about this on another podcast and I decided to try it out myself. So there's this Himalayan ashwagandha that helps me navigate through my daily stress and anxiety. It's super simple and it's just an herb, right? In ancient times, it was used as like the king of Ayurvedic herbs. And it's now used to treat all sorts of different conditions. So try it out. I've been using it. I've been loving it. It's all organic, non-GMO, contains no binders or fillers. It's pretty sweet. And if you want to get 20% off, you can head over to Amazon, pick it up, and use the code SEEKERSAGE. So outside of the book, I know there's the Facebook community. I know there's the Instagram community. I think that people are probably still, at this stage, wanting to practice or learn more. What other offerings are what else have you been up to outside of, I know the book has been, it's got to, I can't even imagine. It's got to be a big amount of work for you too. What else are you two up to? Like, what else have you been up to? It's been that long since we've talked.
Well, our online course has been hugely successful. We've had people writing to us saying that it's changed their lives. Which you can imagine when you read an email from somebody saying that their life is changed for the better because of you, it's just like, wow, okay, that is powerful. So that's, we consider it a success for that reason. And that just continues to sell, but we actually have quite a few things in the pipeline. And I don't know when this podcast is actually going to be published, but at the time of recording it, we're just a few short weeks away from launching a few other things. But it's I don't know if we can.
Well, let's just say that we really want to support the community in a deeper way. Now, Adell and I are talking about our book and our online course, but guys, I know that some of you out there might be listening to this going, I just can't get these things, girls. I really need support. But I just want to give you guys the knowledge that we share so much for free, guys. We share so much on our Instagram page, in our Facebook page. There is some really valuable information that we're constantly delivering because we really care about our community. And we realize that it's a very difficult time right now. And if buying something right now doesn't feel right, you can't do it for whatever reason, that's totally okay. We share so much because basically we really see the body as something that needs guidance when you're hypermobile, especially. And so guys, if you ever just need a little kick up the bum or a bit of inspiration for your workout, or you've got a little niggle in a certain part of your body, please head to our Instagram, especially is littered full of amazing content. We're working on our YouTube channel. We've been pretty busy, but we're going to keep adding more to our YouTube channel as well so we can keep supporting you guys. We've got your back, basically. Please just keep devouring the information we put out there because we put a lot of time into our free stuff as well.
And actually our Facebook group, it's a private Facebook group, but you get access to it as soon as you join our mailing list. And it's I love going in there because there are so many knowledgeable people in there that have, a huge amount of knowledge. As it's not like Celeste and I are the only ones that know anything, like there's lots of doctors and medical professionals that are in our Facebook group. And so I get so happy whenever I see somebody asks a question and then the comments
They're rich.
There are, so good. I'm like, that is amazing information.
I don't usually chip in. I kind of just, I read what's going on there and I think, well, they answered the question, so I don't need to.
Right.
It's a wonderful community over there on our Facebook group.
Yeah, we feel incredibly lucky that we've attracted this group of pretty awesome human beings, just fantastic people.
Very intelligent, very
just cool.
And compassionate, just cool. They're all people that I want to be friends with in real life.
Yeah, they're nice people. They really support each other, and like there's no weird vibes around anyone. And we feel very, very blessed and very lucky.
I was just thinking about this right now. There's a broad range of people that listen to the show. Some people are a lot of people are yoga practitioners, whether they're students, whether they're teachers, and there are also some that, that just aren't. For those that don't even practice yoga, how can they understand? Maybe movement isn't a big part of their thing. Maybe I can't say that for all of my listeners. I feel like a lot of people obviously listen to the show that move, but why is this important in general? I know you said, not just because of the yoga practice, but you were saying some deeper layers of like your gut health and your overall well-being. But what are some of the biggest takeaways of learning about your own hypermobility?
Well, first of all, I think it's worth knowing that it's something like 15% of the population is on the spectrum. And I mean, that's more common than people who are left-handed or have green eyes,
or have a third nipple.
Yeah, that too.
Me too. No, I'm just kidding. I don't.
I have all of this. No, so it is actually quite common. And for a lot of people, they don't even realize it if they're not doing a regular movement practice, because yes, it's called hypermobility, and people who are hypermobile tend to be very flexible. But if you're not moving around a lot, if you were never like a gymnast or a dancer, you've never done yoga, or any of these things that demand a lot of flexibility, then you may not even be aware that you have this tendency towards flexibility or that you are hypermobile. And even if you're not on the spectrum and you're totally hypomobile, a lot of it's worth remembering that, well, two things. One, everything in the body and even the mind is all connected. You don't just have anxiety and it's just totally in your mind and there's nothing going on with your body. Mm-hmm. Everything is connected. But the second thing is, we are all living in this world where we are completely removed from how our human body has evolved over thousands and thousands of years. Like the Homo sapiens have stopped evolving as soon as we had the technology to survive nature without the need for natural selection, right? So our bodies are the same bodies that were way back thousands of years ago, but we're living in this world where we sit down all day, where we squeeze our feet into shoes and we walk on smooth and even paved surfaces, where we are eating processed foods and staring at screens all day. And the list goes on and on and on and on. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of what we teach is basically just getting the body to hold itself in a posture and breathe in a way that is the way that it wants to hold itself.
Mm. And the way that it would hold itself so this is the important thing to remember. Movement is always what we're striving for. We don't want to be in any fixed posture for a length of time. Even if you're in the most perfect posture, if you get rigid in that posture and you never come out of it, that will cause more problems than it'll solve. However, having said that, when you're hypermobile, because potentially you haven't had that movement input from a young age, potentially because you then decided, I'm going to take up yoga, and you've started overstretching. Now you don't actually have that natural understanding of where your body should be in time and space. Then you decide, do you know what? I've heard strength training is important for hypermobile people. I'm going to go do deadlifts. And what do? You throw your back out. It's as it is very difficult for us to know where we are in time and space, and our ligaments aren't giving our brain information about where we are. And so what happens is we just go and do movement. And unfortunately, just moving isn't necessarily going to help us. It might hinder us. Then what we do is we end up in this vicious cycle. Every time I move, I get injured. I know what I'll do. I'll just not move. That's not the solution. The solution is you can break all the rules, guys. Honestly, we're not saying there's only one right way of moving. Please don't misinterpret our message. But what we are saying is first learn the rules, nail them, and then go away and break all of them. Right. But you need to come from a place of integrity first. Get that understanding. Get the myofascial understanding. Get that proprioceptive, that link back to the brain. And then you can go and do whatever you want.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think, anyone that's practiced with me personally, and even in the last year, my teaching is so different. What for me, what hypermobility feels like, and my experience is leaky energy. That's exactly what I think about. It's leaky energy.
We used that in our book. Sorry, we're going to plagiarize.
Yeah, no, totally take it, right? And again, we can go so many layers of this, right? Is it just it's my physical energy that's being dispensed, but that's also my mental energy. That's also my spiritual energy. That's also my connection to, the greater consciousness energy, that's leaky energy that's just being distributed out. So for me, what I've personally done is in my teaching, I don't teach power vinyasa anymore. Like it just doesn't work for me. It doesn't feel good for me right now at this point in my life. And even my teaching is a reflection of, can I draw that energy in? Like really, it's so funny. I'm closing my eyes as I do this, but can I draw the energy in? Can I pull that back into my source? And then from that connection, from that strong source, the drama, the story goes away, the pains go away, and I'm more connected to a whole Danny, because the energy is truly thriving within me and not just being sent out. So even in my physical classes now that I teach, I call them slow burns. And the reason why is because, when you're lowering down from, let's say, plank to your belly, I don't really do chaturanga too much anymore these days, but I have everyone squeeze the thumbs in, squeeze the inner thighs in, draw the feet back forward, draw the hands backwards. And then literally every ounce of your body is turned on. And then you lower down slowly for 5 so that you can sustain that. So that when you get down and you finally release, you're like, I got this. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
I mean, one of the things that I've been doing loads of interviews over lockdown on my personal Instagram page, which is more about anatomy and biomechanics. And I had the privilege of interviewing some really genius minds in the field of rehab. And a couple of people use the analogy of, when you hold your body in a good position, especially if you're hypermobile, it's almost like your nervous system is getting a hug. And I thought that was such a beautiful analogy, and it really links so powerfully to what you've just said about leaky energy, because our nervous system is actually operating at a far higher level than most people's. It's one of the reasons that we suffer from so much fatigue as a population. But what I have found in my own personal life is that just giving my body the right amount of support, oh my goodness, I'm like an Energizer bunny. I can keep going for hours.
100%.
And it's just honestly empowering. That's the best word I've got. I know it's cheesy, but it really is.
And have you noticed, and you can tell this could be a projection, but have you noticed that everything that you do once you draw that energy in, it's just everything that you do is way more potent. Everything that you do has way more or much more integrity. And it's just, I don't know, everything that you do once you draw that in and you move from that space, it's just a little bit sweeter, a little bit juicier.
Yeah, this is something we've been talking about recently, actually, that we've noticed a trend, not just in ourselves, but in people in our community that we've been talking to, that when you're able to stabilize your body and you feel this physical strength, you feel stronger as a person, and you're able to kind of like kick out all the shitty people out of your life and stand up to assholes. And it comes from this inner strength that, almost as strange as it sounds, it comes from a physical stability from, I love the way that you've put it, like this bringing everything in, and the opposite of letting it leak out.
It's almost like the way that I articulate it is that when I'm feeling physically strong within myself, I am better able to put my boundaries up and protect where they are. So when you start kicking shitty people out of your life, you're going to get a lot of backlash from them. But it's weird. Like when your body is strong and you've got that mental strength that accompanies that physical strength, you are able to deal with their backlash and be like, bring it on. Say whatever you want to say. I'm not going to let you bump me around. And I want that for other people, because I feel like there's a lot of shitty people ruling the world right now. And so, I mean, I said, changing the yoga culture is my mission, but I think in a grander, bigger way, I want people who potentially have felt weak and disempowered in the past. I want them to walk away feeling strong within themselves. And guys, that's not to say all people with muscles feel strong within themselves. I realize that there's a lot of muscly people out there that probably are being pushed around and are very fragile within themselves. But I think if you're even just aware of the fact that you've got this mind-body connection, that already pushes you in the right direction. Just having this conversation, I think, already jolts people's memories and goes, you know what, maybe I should rethink that relationship with that person, and maybe I should put my boundaries up. And if they do kick back, maybe I should just be like, no, actually, this is what I want.
I'm going to take that shit from you. No,
Nuh-uh.
I love it. We're not only solving hypermobility, we're helping people out with their boundaries.
We're saving the world.
Damn right we are. I'm so excited. I mean, it's very cool to, obviously I love you too as friends, and I also so much, and I also love you too as colleagues, but it's very cool to sit back and witness growth. And I think the community that you've built is it's just so needed. And I hope that for anyone that's listening to the show, and that maybe have even heard the podcast episode with actually, I'll link it to the show notes so that you can hear the first one and this one. I think that'd be really cool for people to hear just from the start to where it's at now. And I'm just excited to see what you're going to continue to do. And I can't wait to see this book with all the superheroes.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. We're going to start sharing the characters soon.
Yes. Yeah. And it's really also, I'll just plug it a little bit. It's easy to find where to pre-order it, because if you just go to our website, which is just hypermobileyogis.com, hit a little /book at the end of that, and it takes you right to our page where you can find whichever online retailer best suits you to pre-order it.
Yeah.
I am going to do that as soon as we're done.
Oh, thanks, Danny. That's so sweet of you. And to anyone out there who does feel like this book could be an addition to them and you do end up ordering it, we just want to say such a big thank you for your support. Honestly, we couldn't do this stuff without you. You mean the world to us. And we really sincerely, from the bottom of our hearts, hope that we can just reach one person. We know we've done a good thing. So please do let us know if anything we've shared with you has made a difference.
Yeah.
Well, you too. It is such a treat and such a gift to have both of you on the show at the same time, for selfish reasons, obviously. But also, I'm just really excited that you got to come on to the show and share your journey. And I'll continue to sit back and watch your growth and see what you guys offer. And I can't wait for book club.
Yay!
Yeah, thank you so much, Danny. I know I can speak for both of us when I say we love you from the bottom.
This is where we have the love fest of the show. This is every time I get so especially people that I know. No, I love you more. No, I love you more. Well, until the next Seeker and Sage, this is Danny, Celeste, and Adell saying peace out.
Peace out.